Hey Paylon Nation, we're back for step 3 in doing the pulled pork. As you can see, here are the 8 shoulders we put in this morning. They've had about 6 hours on the smoker at about 225. I've turned it off to let it cool down just a little bit. You don't want to let that go too long, but I also don't want to scorch my fingers when I transfer stuff. Now we're going to come back to the pans. I've been talking about the pans all morning. See how we still have our spice in there. Here's the reason why. We're going to make our braising liquid. For those of you who don't know what braising is, it's real simple. It just means you're searing off the meat and then you're cooking it with some sort of liquid covered so that the liquid does a lot of the cooking work for you. It's kind of like steaming. Alright, we're going to add just a little bit of apple cider vinegar to each of these pans. Now the vinegar just gives us a little more bite, a little more tang to the flavor. And we don't need a lot of liquid in this. There's still a lot of fat in those pork shoulders that's going to render down and give you liquid. Fresh filtered water. Now I'm going to use my fingers and get into these pans and make sure all that spice gets unstuck from the pans, otherwise it's not doing us any good. So if you take a look at the pans, what you've got in there is just a little bit of water, a little bit of cider vinegar, and the residual brain rub that didn't stick to the meat. That's why it's okay to be, throwing lots of dry rub at that stuff when we do it up in the morning. All right, now we're just going to move the pork shoulders into our pans. The towel is for me, not for the meat. All right, now we're going to show you 2 things about this pork shoulder that we talked about in step 2. All right, here's the spice still on that skin on top of the fat. You see how it's split? All that fat is still rendering through the meat. Here's that bark I was telling you about. See how it's hard? Smoky, all that good flavor in there. Typically in kitchens, when they do this professionally, that's left behind and it's kind of like the cook's treat. Well, we're going to reincorporate it into the pulled pork final product now. By flipping it over and continuing to do it fat side up, that liquid's going to soften up that bark. And we're going to get to chop it up and blend it in with our pulled pork and get more of that smoky flavor. So this is the process. I won't bore you with doing it all step by step. What we're going to do from here is cover these with foil. We're going to bring it back, put them right back on the racks in the smoker. We're going to turn the smoker back on. We're just not going to use smoke anymore. It's wasted at this point. It's not going to get to it with the cover on the pan. So we're going to stay 225 to 250. Another 3 or 4 hours. I'll test them, and that'll be step 4 when you find out when we're done. So we'll be back in a little bit once we got that, and you can keep on moving. Thanks for tuning in.